Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last week of Greek. Congratulations. And buckle up for Hebrew because it is a completely different animal. But that's not the point here. We are in our last week and we are going to be talking about infinitives, otherwise known as the verbal nouns of Greek. So let me just take this opportunity to have you dismiss a lot of your preconceptions about what infinitives are in English. An infinitive in English is essentially taking the present tense form of a verb in the third person and putting the preposition to in front of it. To run, to jump, to fast, to cry, to love, to hate, and so on. This is not the case in Greek at all. And so just kind of let that sit for a second. Infinitives are indeed verbal forms, but as verbal nouns, they can function in ways that nouns do. So, for instance, you'll see at the very beginning of the lecture here, it has case relations. It's used as a subject, an object. It can have a definite article in front of it. It can have a preposition and a definite article in front of it. It has voice. It has tense. It can take an object. And it is qualified by adverbs, and in those ways, it's of course like a verb. So it's like a hybrid. Just as the participle is a hybrid between a verb and an adjective, likewise an infinitive is a hybrid between a noun and a verb. Okay, so you're going to have to kind of just check your preconceptions at the door and let it be what it is. Okay, much like the participle, it occurs in present aorist imperfect, but it also can occur in the future tense much more often than I think the participle happens just a few times here and there. So that was not a communique from Starfleet. If you heard that, that was my text message ringtone. I apologize, but it is pretty awesome. Anyway, let's move on. So I've given you a few examples of what it looks like generally, just translated very plainly as if it were an English infinitive in the present, future, aorist imperfect, and then in the active, middle, and passive voice. Okay, so you can kind of look over that just to get a general idea, but for the most part, they're going to look quite a bit different than they do here in this list. It's just a good quick reference of the way the English functions even. All right, so the first thing you need to know just formulaically about the infinitive is that it takes its subject in the accusative. And I know that sounds weird at first, but you'll see what I mean. In this example here out of Mark 1:34, here's the very literal translation. Not he was allowing to speak. That red part there is the infinitive, the demons. Okay, so the demons are in the accusative case, accusative neuter, plural in this particular case, and they become the subjects of the infinitive. So here we would translate it: he was not allowing the demons to speak. Okay, so this is how the Greek uses that verbal idea to communicate what the demons are doing with the infinitive. And so here it's functioning much more verbally than it is as a noun, all right? And you can read the explanation for a little bit further analysis. I really want to kind of speed through this so we can get to the stuff that's similar to participles, because that's where the interpretive part comes in. Tenses of the infinitive. Here I just kind of give you a little bit of a flavor for how they each work. So here's the present tense. I am going to fish. In the present tense gives the sense of a prolonged action. I am going to fish for a while is kind of the implication, whereas the aorist infinitive, Herod wishes to kill you. Obviously that is, well, I mean, I guess it could be a prolonged action if it were in the present tense. That killing could take a long time, whereas here it's in the aorist, and therefore it's meant to convey a simple action that doesn't have a length of time specified. So once again, this is that weird aorist aspect that we've talked about before. The perfect infinitive represents a state resulting from the prior action. So this is kind of like the resultative perfect when the perfect is in the infinitive. So pretty standard ways we expect the tenses to function, so there shouldn't be too many surprises there. That's good. Functions of the infinitive. They're like participles insofar as they can be interpreted in a myriad of different ways. Here's the beauty, though, of the infinitive. They're much more formulaic about the way they present them. So, for instance, just as you can have a participle that expresses time, after he ate, he went to bed, right? That's after he ate is a participle form, right, in Greek. Here, to convey time, they use different constructions of the infinitive, and in order to convey the idea of time, they put different prepositions and articles on the front of the infinitive to make it clear what they're doing. So, for subsequent time, which is generally translated with the words before, the word before, here I've given you the Greek letters. So if you see where the text is telling you there's an infinitive, look in front of it or maybe a few words in front of it, and you should see this pra-tu plus the infinitive, or prin plus the infinitive, or prin a plus the infinitive. If you're looking at one of those three things, you are likely looking at a subsequent time. And so you would insert the word before. And then, of course, here in our Greek construction, we have the pra-tu. That's the phrase we're looking for, plus the infinitive pathein. And then we have me, which is the accusative pronoun. And so it's functioning, remember, as the subject of the infinitive. Therefore, it is before I, because remember, even though it's an accusative, so you think it's me, here it's functioning as the subject of that verbal noun, pathein, so it's before I suffer. Whereas technically, very literally, it's before the me to suffer. Very strange, but it ends up coming out before I suffer. Okay, so if you see that, you know what to do with the verbal idea. Before, and then the verbal idea with the appropriate subject. Likewise, with contemporaneous time, you're looking for particular construction. In this case, it's ento plus the infinitive. And then, just like the participial form, it's when, while, or just as something was happening. So here, while he was sewing, ento plus the infinitive plus the accusative form of the pronoun him gets turned into the subject while he was sewing. All right? And then I'll let you look at antecedent time. That is just looking for meta ta. You notice that there are clear forms being used here, and this is very helpful. Okay. Then we move on to causal. In causal, you are looking for dia ta plus the infinitive, or just the article to with no preposition. Okay, so here we have dia ta plus the infinitive to have. So it is because it had no root. There's no subject, so you just imply an it. And then the me is a negation. So because it had no root, it withered. Exeraste is the main verb of the clause. And actually, I'm seeing a little error here, so I'm going to change. Well, there you go. It's wrong, but that's neither here nor there. It won't mess you guys up at all. Okay, let's move on to purpose. Now, purpose gets a little bit more hairy, whereas in causal, we just had the two forms, dia ta or to. Here, purpose gives us several options. It could just be an infinitive by itself. It can be this form here, which is called the ace ta, another to. So if you just see the to plus the infinitive now, it could either be causal or purpose. And then we have pros ta. Okay, so you're probably going to need to make just like a quick reference list out of this. I know Shane did that last week. I really encourage you to do that again. I think it's a helpful practice. I could do it for you, but I think making it yourself is going to make you remember it better. That's just my opinion. And I've seen that happen before, where I just hand someone something and it never ends up clicking with them. Try to make your own resource, and I think you'll find it's a helpful one. Okay, likewise with result, you start to see the pattern. You're just looking for certain forms, and then you're going to try to go to the translation and make it work. So if you see Hoste plus the infinitive, ace ta again, or to again, notice to is kind of a generic way to present the infinitive. That's the definite article in the genitive form with the infinitive. It's just kind of a standard way to do it. So that one will keep you guessing a little bit, but otherwise there are some pretty clear formulas. Means is primarily enta, so plus the infinitive. And then we get to some frustrating ones. They don't have to be, but they can be. And so let me explain here. A complementary infinitive. In English, we would never just say I want. We always want something, or we want to do something, right? And so just likewise in Greek, when you have the Greek form of the word I want, if there's no noun to follow it, then there will be a verbal noun to follow it, because you can't just say I want. You have to want something or to do something. So I want to eat. That's just going to have an infinitive sitting right there at the end of it. Likewise with dunamai, I am able to jump. I am able to run. And then I am about to go. I seek to find. These verbs commonly take infinitives to finish out their verbal ideas, and therefore they're called complementary infinitives. They're not going to be causal. It's not going to be I want because to eat. That doesn't make any sense. Usually the causal participles and the manner, all those kinds, are going to have a subject with them because he suffered, right? And it's going to turn more into just a straightforward kind of verbal construction in English. The complementaries are just going to be like we would see in English. I want to run. I am able to run. I am about to run. I seek to run. All right. So we have this construction here. I want you to know. All right. So here we do have an accusative as the subject, but of course it's not I want you know, it's I want you to know, completing that verbal idea of what the subject wants. Okay. Epexegetical, otherwise known as the annoying infinitive. Ooh, I missed a number here. My apologies. Infinitives can function kind of adverbially. They're just contributing to the idea. I am no longer worthy to be called. This is just kind of in addition to the verbal idea worthy. Okay. Or I'm sorry, the verbal idea is am worthy. To be called is just kind of epexegetical. Really, I don't care if you guys get a hold of this one. If you just put complementary here, I wouldn't be frustrated with you at all. So don't worry about it. And then of course we have all that is to say, epexegetical is just an annoying category, but it's there. So try to make some sense of it, but I'm not going to hold you to it too tightly. And then we have manner, which once again is functioning much like an adverb in English. Okay. It's something you do, like for instance here, pros ta plus the infinitive is a way that you can convey manner. Lustfully is just the way to translate it. In a lustful manner is what it's trying to communicate. Okay, and these next few sections talk about how infinitives can function as nouns and thusly as subjects, direct objects, and in apposition to one another. Don't focus too much on that. I'd much rather you focus on these in this category here, because they're much more interpretively interesting. I'm not going to throw a lot of the other ones at you, and if I do, I'll tell you that it's one of the other categories so that you don't waste too much time on it. All right. I hope this helps clarify a little bit. Once again, this takes a long time to master, just like the participles. I am really encouraged with what you guys did with the participles. Well done. Keep up the good work, because you can't learn it all right now. You're just going to have to keep chugging away after the class is over. And I really hope that you continue to do that. So I look forward to seeing you on the boards this week. Have a good week.